Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Allie. Today I'm talking about all the summer books that are going to be coming out. So new releases for June, July, and August. I'm going to be talking about a lot of books, so feel free to, fast forward, skip through, whatever. Also, a lot of these dates are tentative, so, take it all with a grain of salt. Most of these are horror slash thriller slash mystery. I have quite a few fiction and romances, so we have a lot of different genres and a lot of different things for different people. So definitely let me know if any of these are on your radar. In the first week of June, we have May Fly by CJ Lead. I am honestly only gonna get this because of the cover. This is amazing. It's creepy and disturbing and there's an eyeball. Yes! Okay, so this is about Maeve, obviously, and she works as, I think, like a Disney princess, but I don't know if it's actually Disney. And then by night, she reads books in dive bars, which just sounds like a vibe. Her best friend's brother comes to town and it says that he awakens something dangerous within her, and I just want to know what that means. Apparently she takes this time to try on a new persona and it's heavily influenced by American Psycho. I haven't read that book or seen that movie, but I know the gist and I've seen the gifs, so I'm so ready for this. In the second week of June, I have 3 releases that I'm really excited for. First, we have Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. I'm sure this is all on your radars. I have read Ali Hazelwood's other 2 full-length novels, The Love Hypothesis and Love on the Brain, and I had so much fun with them. And I expect nothing less with this one. This one is again about a female in the science world. I think she's a professor, but in her spare time, she is a fake girlfriend for pay. So like she has clients who use her, to fake date. So she's like a PG escort. And one of her favorite clients, she meets his brother and it turns out he is in the science world and he's actually on the, the hiring committee at MIT, and she's trying to get a job there. She has this horrible idea that he's ruined the reputations and careers of many science person, including one of her mentors. So she hates him. However, knowing Ali Hazelwood, he probably didn't do any of that, and he's actually been in love with her for like 20 years or something. I really don't care what happens in here. I know I'm gonna get this book and I know I'm gonna have a lot of fun. Next we have You Can Trust Me by Wendy Hurd. I really like this cover, and for some reason it's giving me 70s vibes, but there's no mention of the 1970s in this description, so I don't know where that's coming from. It's about Summer and Leo and they're best friends, and they have sort of come up with this lifestyle where they pickpocket people and they con people, and they've made their own way in this world and they really love it. Leo ends up catching the eye of some billionaire and she decides to, take as much as she can get. He offers to take her to his private island and she goes, but she ends up disappearing. And so Summer, her best friend, ends up investigating what happened because, her best friend is missing. And she goes to this private island, except no one's even heard of or seen Leo anywhere. So it sounds like a great mystery, and I hope Leo's not dead, and I hope that they can be best friends forever. That's all I want. It's so funny because I feel like the mystery and thrillers that I pick, I end up getting them because of the family, the found family, the best friend aspect. And even though I'm intrigued for the mystery, at the end of the day, I just want a story about people being, best friends or in love or something like that. And then I have another story of best friends, Madalena and the Dark. I didn't write this author's name down, but it'll be right here. This one's actually historical fiction, and I'm usually kind of scared of historical fiction, but I'm gonna take a chance on this one. This is about 2 best friends in the 1700s or sometime around there. They're in Venice and they go to this private boarding school for music. I think they're kind of outcasts and they end up becoming best friends, maybe more, ? They've decided that they want to leave the school, and I think they explore out in the real world, but I think it might get dark or sad and they have to figure out, is this what they really want? I hope they end up just falling in love and running away and being very safe. Again, I go into books for the relationships and I'm so scared of anything happening, but some of the best books are really depressing, so we'll see. We have 0 Days by Ruth Ware. I've read 2 of Ruth Ware's books. I have The Turn of the Key, which I think I gave 4.5 stars. This was really creepy. There was a haunted house story, there was weird creepy children, and lots of twists and turns and plot twists that I didn't see coming. And then there was The It Girl, which was more of a mystery, and it was super long and honestly very boring and not much happened. It was kind of predictable and I was very disappointed. So I am hesitant but also excited to check out 0 Days. This is about a husband and wife, and I think they hack different things. They're a hacking team, and it says in the description that they're penetration specialists, and I had to laugh and write that down and tell you about how immature I am. But apparently the husband gets killed on the job and the police for some reason are suspecting her, and so she is forced to solve this murder of her husband. It says this is a thriller, so I'm hoping it's more fast-paced than The It Girl, and I'm gonna take a wild guess and just theorize that I think the husband faked his death and blamed his wife. That's my guess, okay? Another one that's probably most definitely on your radar is The Only One Left by Riley Sager. I'm so excited for this because I read The House Across the Lake last September and I had such a fun time. There were so many plot twists in here. It took some crazy turns that I wasn't expecting, and I love it. Love it for that. Okay, so this takes place, I think, in the 80s in this coastal town. There's a sort of town legend back in the 20s that this family crazy murder happened, and they all think that this lady named Lenora did it because she's the only one that was left alive in her family. They even have this chant that they say, "At 17, Lenora Hope hung her sister with a rope, stabbed her father with a knife, took her mother's happy life. It wasn't me," Lenora said, "but she's the only one not dead." Apparently something happened where her vocal cords made her mute, so she can only communicate via typewriter, and she's never spoken outside of like the police about anything that's happened. Anyway, she's an old lady now, and she needs a nurse to come help take care of her. Our new nurse, who I think is our main character named Kit, comes and helps Lenora. And Lenora decides via typewriter to tell her all about what happened, except Kit can't really trust her, and she can't tell if she's lying or she's making things up, but it sounds so intriguing. I want to know what this family drama is. Will Kit be okay? We'll see. Ooh, then we have Night's Edge by Liz Karen. This is like a vampire book and it looks so moody. I love it. This is about Mia, and when she was in high school, she had all these rules. She like couldn't do after school activities. No one could come to the house, but the number one rule was that no one could find out that her mother craved blood. So yeah, now she's in her 20s and she really wants to like escape her mom and escape her house and like, you know, find a new life, and she ends up getting a crush or maybe a friend, this musician named Jade, and she thinks this is her chance to get out. That's all it really says. It does say this is gruesome and surprisingly heartfelt. I'm hoping it's a little bit like Woman Eating. This is sort of like a vampiric novel about a young woman who did escape her mother, so it's like the prequel of this, but this one sounds like it'll be a little more fast-paced. And then the 4th week of June we have Will They or Won't They by Ava Wilder. This is a romance. This is about 2 actors who played on some hit show. It says paranormal, so I'm gonna picture like the Vampire Diaries or something. Apparently in season 1 they had a fling and it ended very badly, but they kept working until the end of season 5 when our main girl ended up quitting the show. But then 4 years later, she's coming back onto the show for the 9th and final season. She has to reunite with this guy that she hates, but she also had a one-time fling with. That's all it really says. I am a little nervous about this because Enemies to Lovers hasn't always been my cup of tea, and I also don't always love stories about famous people, but for some reason this one has caught my eye. Okay, on to July. We have another romance. We have Business or Pleasure by Rachel Lynn Solomon. This is the author of Weather Girl, which I did read last year. I have a vlog on it. And what was it? The X Talk? I really enjoy Rachel Lynn Solomon's books. I usually enjoy the first half more than the second half, but I will always be picking up her books because there's just so much potential, and one of these days I'm gonna get one that fits like perfectly for me. This one might be it. I don't know. Our main character's name is Chandler, and she's a ghostwriter, and she feels like she's so invisible to the point that she goes to a book signing for a book that she herself has written as a ghostwriter, and the author, who's like taking credit for the book, literally doesn't even recognize her, which is just devastating. So she's having kind of a shitty night at the book signing, but then she ends up meeting this guy and she has a hookup, except like it was really awkward and she didn't like it. She thinks she's never gonna see him again, except for that he's the next person she needs to ghostwrite a book for. He's some like C-list actor and she is going to be ghostwriting his memoir. Obviously they have to work together, and he brings up like them hooking up, and she has to break it to him that it wasn't that great for her. So then he asks her to just sort of like teach him how to, you know, be better for his next lady. So I think it's just a friends with benefits to lovers, which is one of my all-time favorite tropes. So I'm so excited for this. Then we have one that I've never heard of, and I'm so excited for it. It's called At the End of Every Day by Ariana Reach, and it said that it was perfect for fans of Anne Reid and Julia Armfield, who was the author of one of my all-time favorite books. So I have to read this. This is about a woman named Delphi, and she works at some iconic amusement park. She has fled her traumatic childhood and she loves this park, and she's like at one with it. But the park ends up shutting down because some celebrity ends up dying on the premises, and so it's about this park shutting down and our main character dealing with it and probably dealing with her trauma. And also I think it says that the employees start disappearing in the park, which is interesting. That all sounds really good to me to read about, but there's like an added bonus of intrigue because it makes it sound sound like it's gonna be a weird book. It says, at once a novel about the uncanny valley, death cults, optical illusions, and the enduring power of fantasy, Risha's debut is a mind-bending teacup ride through an eerily familiar landscape where the key to it all is what happens at the end of every day. So I don't know. I feel like it's gonna be a little fantastical. Also in that first week of June, we have Disturbance by Jenna Clake. This is about a woman who moves to a new town because she's fleeing from her abusive ex. And she's in her house, she looks out the window, and there's some witchy teenager doing some occult hex to get rid of her ex-boyfriend. And so our main character ends up befriending that teenager and her witchy friends, and she ends up doing like hexes on herself. But then she starts hearing shit all around her house, like creaks and moans, and she thinks her ex-boyfriend is haunting her, and she can't tell if it's like these hexes that she's doing or if it's psychological. I hope this is handled well because it sounds like it could be, I don't know, not handled well. But it also could be a riotous time and hopefully, you know, let's murder the ex-boyfriend kind of book. In the second week of June, we have one of my fave authors, Paul Tremblay, coming out with a collection of short stories. This is the author of The Cabin at the End of the World, which I think I gave 4 stars to. It was very gory and was all very fast-paced, but my favorite of his that I've read is The Pallbearers Club, which is very slow-paced and not really gory at all. This book is called The Beast You Are, and there are 15 stories all about monsters of a kind. I don't really know what that means, and the descriptions are kind of vague, so I guess we'll see, but I have to buy this. I'm hoping it is weird and creepy, but also funny. We'll see. Then we have Ripe by Sarah Rose Etter. I have to get this just because the cover, another cover by, look at this. This one is another one where it could be psychological or it could be magical. I really don't know. This is about a woman who works at a cutthroat Silicon Valley type workplace. It talks about her struggles in this career, but also about the city where there's like both billionaires, but also super impoverished people. But then it says something. It says, she is never alone. From her earliest memory, a black hole has been her constant companion. The black hole watches and waits. What does that mean? And then get this, the description says her boss demands some illegal shit. It doesn't actually say that, but I'm, you know, paraphrasing. She ends up getting unexpectedly pregnant, like what? And she has to figure out if this is all worth it. I can tell you right now, it is not. The intrigue level that I have for this is very high, and I think it's gonna be literary and told beautifully, so I think this, I don't know, 5-star prediction, question mark. And then in the third week of June, we have Silver Nitrate by Sylvia Marina Garcia. I have heard wonderful things about her books, Mexican Gothic and The Beautiful Ones. I have not read them yet, mostly because I'm sure I'm gonna love them and I'm scared that, I don't know. I'm always scared when I think something's gonna be great because who knows what's gonna happen. So I actually might start with Silver Nitrate because everyone's gonna be talking about it, and if it sucks, I can still look forward to her other books. This is about a girl who's in the film industry. She feels rather invisible both in her career as a woman and also just in her life. She's had this crush on her best friend forever and he probably has no idea, or maybe he just doesn't care. But her friend who she has a crush on, his new neighbor, is some like cult horror director, and he back in the day started making this film about these Nazis that like had magical stuff that they were doing with silver nitrate. I really don't know. But apparently he was cursed for the story, and to lift the curse he has to finish the movie. I don't know why he's waiting till now to do it. I'm so confused about this synopsis. But this director enlists our main character and her childhood friend slash crush to finish it so that the curse will be lifted, but the main character starts noticing weird shit going on and she feels like she's being haunted. So there's like dark presences, an ex-girlfriend ghost coming up. I really, again, have no idea what's going on. It sounds creepy. If you put Nazis in anything, it's even creepier. So yeah, I think this will be my first Sylvia Marina Garcia book. Okay, moving on to August, we have a new release by Ann Patchett, and she's the author of one of my all-time favorite books, Bel Canto. Although I haven't read this in like, I don't know, maybe 10 years because I lent it to my friend's aunt and she never gave it back, and I will never forgive her. The synopsis of her new book, Tom Lake, is in the spring of 2020, which immediately makes me like, ooh, because is this a COVID book? I don't know. Laura's 3 daughters return to their family's orchard in northern Michigan, and their mother, who's Laura, starts telling them all about this romance she had as a young woman. Young woman. He was some famous actor, and the drama place, I don't know, the theater that they worked at was called Tom Lake. So it's about this love story, but I think it's also about the daughters and the mother coming together, and maybe the daughters reflecting on their lives. If I know Ann Patchett, she's probably going into every single character's mind, and she's gonna tell us a beautiful tale and possibly heartbreaking, but also like really heartfelt. So although this isn't like piquing my interest right now, I know I'm gonna love it. 5-star prediction. Then we have The Freedom Clause by Hannah Sloan. And this is, I don't know if this is romance. There are definitely romantic things happening in it, but I think this is one of those kind of romances where you're like, do they end up together? I don't know. This is about a married couple and they've been happily married for 3 years. And on New Year's Eve, they decide that they want to try opening up their marriage. Not completely, they have like specific rules. I think they can sleep with one person once a year for 5 years cap. Did I use cap correctly? I don't think so. And so obviously this changes the marriage. I don't know what they were expecting, but like our main character, Daphne, she makes like a newsletter where she talks about her experiences doing this, and I think she probably gets very popular, so that will play into like her decision to continue doing this. Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't tell us much other than that, but I'm excited for this, I don't know. I feel like this is gonna be really messy, and I just don't know if they're gonna make it work. We'll see. Another maybe romance, maybe not, is 100 Loves of Juliet by Evelyn Skye. This is about a woman named Helen who's always dreamed of the perfect guy, and she's wrote him in her notebook. She's made stories about him, given him very particular idiosyncrasies and habits and very like specific traits. And currently she's a grown-ass woman. She's just gotten divorced. She moves to, I think, Alaska to write her novel, and she meets this dude named Sebastian who is exactly like the guy, like the dream guy that she's made in her head all those years ago, down to the most specific traits and idiosyncrasies that she wrote about and thought about. And so she's kind of creeped out and she's like, what is going on? It says in the description that he's like hiding something and it's coming back to haunt them. But then it says this, that our main character discovers that she's a part of a legendary love story that spans lives, years, and continents in this modern day reimagining of Romeo and Juliet. I did not see that coming, even in the synopsis, so I'm very intrigued. And I really hope this is a story about, I don't know, reincarnation, about soulmates. I don't know, it could be really sad though if they're ripped apart in every single one of their lifetimes. In the second week of August, we have Looking Glass Sound by Katrina Ward. I never know how to say her name. Is it Katrina? This is the author of The Last House on Needless Street, which I still haven't read, and this is another one where I'm pretty sure I'm going to be obsessed with it, so I'm putting it off. This is a psychological horror about an older man who lives in Maine. He's writing his last book because he's like getting old, and he is writing, I think, his memoir all about his childhood summer, about all of these murders that happened and these victims and dead bodies, but also about his old best friend who he told this story to. And his best friend stole his unfinished memoir and turned it into a best-selling novel called Looking Glass Sound. And so as our writer or our narrator is writing this memoir, he starts finding little notes from his best friend, like creepy notes. And this might be one of those books where it's an old character and he's going senile, so you can't tell if something is really happening or if he's imagining things or if he's doing things. At the end of the synopsis, it says he has to come to terms with the terrors of his past. Honestly, who knows what is happening, but I'm going to be reading it. Then we have Shark Heart by Emily Haybeck. This synopsis has been stuck in my head since I read it. I honestly can't wait. This is about a couple who gets married, and I think in their first year of marriage, he gets some diagnosis of a rare disease where he's going to turn into a literal shark. And I think he's going to keep his brain and like his thoughts, his memories, his intellect, but his body, including its like impulses, are going to turn into a shark. And so first, our main character, Ren, thinks she's going to be able to make this work. Like, she's in love, their love is gonna fight through it, but at some point he acts on his carnivorous nature and suddenly she's like, whoa. And I think it goes into her traumatic past, memories that she's been repressing about her childhood. And it also sounds like it's going to be a generational story of Ren's mother giving birth to her. So I don't really know what's going on, but there are a few key phrases in the synopsis. It says it's going to be funny, it's going to be beautiful, but also I think it's just going to be weird, and this could be amazing. In the third week of August, we have Spin a Black Yarn by Josh Malerman. I'm so excited for this because Josh Malerman is the author of A House at the Bottom of a Lake, which is one of my all-time favorite books, 5 stars, but also the author of Daphne, which I really didn't like. I gave it like 2 stars. So I'm curious how this will go. This, I think, is a short story collection. It's actually like a collection of novellas, and they all sound very vague because they're short, so you can't give too much away. So like one of the stories about a brother and sister, and they're in a haunted house, but they can't tell if the house is actually haunted or it's like a psychological, their childhood is haunted kind of thing. Another one, a man confesses to homicides that he never committed. Weird. And then there's a trip to outer space. Again, is this literal or metaphorical? Who knows? It's categorized as horror though, so I'm intrigued. I also think this cover is totally menacing and I love it. Okay, the 5th and final week of August, we have 4 more books to discuss. This one, I don't know if this is gonna be good or bad, but I have to try it. It's called My Roommate is a Vampire by Jenna Levine. What is with all these vampire books? I love it. This is a debut rom-com about our main character named Cassie. She lives in Chicago. I think she's an artist and she is desperate to find a place to live. And she finds an ad for an almost unbelievable apartment and it's crazy cheap. And so she's like, this is too good to be true. And it turns out that the roommate is some guy who sleeps all day. He's out all night and he talks like he's from the 18th century. You and I both know what's happening here because the title of this book. Apparently though, he's super sweet and he leaves her little notes and he loves her art and he's just really nice to her. But one day she looks in the fridge and there are like blood bags. And so she asks, what's up? He confesses he's a vampire and he says he has a proposition for her. That's all it says. I want to know what he's propositioning. And I feel like all of that's probably going to happen pretty quick in the book. So like what else happens in this book? It is a rom-com, so I'm guessing they're going to fall in love and I can't wait. Then we have Good Bad Girl by Alice Feeney. I don't like this cover, I have to confess. But I've heard such great things about Alice Feeney. Last year, I ended up reading Daisy Darker, and I loved it. I had so much fun. There were several plot twists. Some I saw coming, some I did not at all. And so I have to read another Alice Feeney. This one, it sounds confusing, but I think like when I read the book and I know everything, I will understand, obviously. It says 20 years after a baby is stolen from a stroller, a woman is murdered in a care home. Apparently, these 2 crimes are linked. We have a couple characters here. We have an old lady who is apparently tricked into a nursing home, and we have someone who works there whose name is Patience. They end up being friends, or what's the word when they start working together, but apparently Patience is lying to Edith about almost everything, which is not good. Apparently they're investigating, why Edith, the old woman, is even there, but also investigating this stolen child. I don't know how. It doesn't give us too many details, but it does say this is a thriller in which nobody can be trusted and the twists come fast and furious. I am going to be having my pen and pencil out, my highlighter. I want to solve this. I think I might want to do a video where I do total spoilers and we go chapter by chapter, like trying to figure out what happens. That sounds really fun. Okay, the next one is called Zara. This is book number 1 in the Guardians of Dawn book series by S.J. Jones. And the only reason I picked this up, first of all, it is stunning, but it says it's Sailor Moon meets Cinder, and I love both of those things. I'm a Sailor Moon fangirl. I was obsessed with it as a child, as a teenager. I rewatched it in college and it's all I care about. I'm exaggerating a little bit, obviously, but Sailor Moon is very close to my heart, so I have to give this a chance. It says, in this world, magic is forbidden because apparently magicians were blamed for monsters being created like 20 years ago. Our main character's name is Jin Zara, and she is magical, so she is, plagued by that and people hating her for being an abomination, but she also has an evil stepmother, which I think is where the Cinder/Cinderella thing comes in. She ends up meeting this guy named Han, and he shows her to some rebellious, sort of rebellious group who I think are called the Guardians of Dawn. They find out that the monsters, like today, they are re-emerging and they're actually magicians transforming into monsters, and a demon is to blame. I'm not sure why they put this in the synopsis. I feel like this is kind of a spoiler, but whatever. Apparently it's up to our main character and these Guardians of Dawn to defeat this demon. I'm not too sure about this one, okay? Because now that I think about it, Sailor Moon, like the episodic sort of thing where they defeat demons, I don't give a shit about that. I care about the friendship and the love story and all those cute montages of her transforming into her outfits, which you can't really get in a book, honestly. So I really, really hope that this has great characters and great friendships and a great solid core of like found family. That's what I'm really, really hoping for. And the last book I have to talk to you today is another vampire book. It's called Vampires of El Norte by Isabel Cañas. This is a historical book. It takes place in 1840s Mexico. There are threats of like real historical events happening, but then there are also threats of like vampires. So 9 years ago, our main character Nina was attacked and she was thought to be dead, but she wasn't. She actually survived. But her lover thought she was dead, and in his grief, he fled and he ran away. Well, instead, she didn't die. She became a healer, and they end up reuniting when the US attacks Mexico, and obviously they're both like, whoa. He's amazed and shocked that she's actually alive, and she's kind of rightly pissed at him for seemingly abandoning her. And so in the shock of their reunion, they are interrupted by a vampire and they have to work together to survive and maybe defeat them. I don't know. It sounds like the atmosphere of this book is going to be amazing. I think this is the author of The Hacienda, which I've heard great things about. So I am excited to try this author. And of course, I'm excited for vampires. Evil vampires are as much fun to read about as like romantic vampires. So I'm excited. All right, that's it. Those are all the books that I'm really looking forward to this summer. I can't believe summer is like this close. Admittedly, I live in Hawaii where it's pretty much summer all the time, but it's not until June where it really just like, it's summer. Let me know if you're interested in any of these or if you are not interested in any of these. Let's get some controversy going and tell me what other books that you're really, really looking forward to this summer, and I will probably end up buying them. All right, I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.